Hey, what's going on everybody? Today we're going to be talking about the boat setup for my Tracker 190TX. This is a 2020 model with a Mercury 4-stroke ProXS 115 horsepower. What are we going to talk about? We're going to talk about the overall setup of the boat as far as whole shot performance, mid-range, handling of the boat. I've had it for just over a year now, and I did my first test and tune video to kind of get a baseline quite a while ago, and I've been tweaking with it ever since on a handful of different props. At the end, I'm going to give you a prop recommendation, but I think you should sit through the whole thing and understand some of the theory and some of the trial and error that I've gone through so that you can help learn how to set up your boat a little bit better yourself, so you don't just throw a prop on there and expect the same setup to do the same thing, because they're all going to be a little bit different. The first thing let's talk about is weight distribution. These boats are very light, which is why maybe you like an aluminum boat. It's a lightweight boat. That also means it's very sensitive to weight. The lighter the boat, the weight that you change has a greater percentage of the overall weight of the boat, and therefore will affect the dynamics of the boat even more than a heavier boat. You're moving less weight, right? If I put 500 pounds in the back of my truck, that's probably not going to do as much as if I put 500 pounds in the back of my muscle car. It's going to be very different, right? Just the overall mass of the vehicle is a lot different. That said, this boat is pretty heavy. All of the testing and all the numbers and all the performance attributes that I'm going to talk about is fully loaded. Not talking about empty tackle boxes with a lightweight trolling motor, no tackle, no rods, none of that. This boat is loaded, ready to rock, ready to fish anywhere. So I've got some 14 or 15 rods in there. I've got a full suite of tackle. I have a 100 whatever pound thrust Garmin Force, 2 graphs on the bow, 2 graphs on the console, fully loaded compartments here, fuel. It is a loaded boat. So I don't want to say that, hey, this is an X mile an hour boat and it's not a realistic expectation. It drives me nuts when people say, oh, my boat does whatever, 50 miles an hour empty, just me in it and a quarter tank of fuel. How often do you run your boat empty with a quarter tank of fuel? I don't even know why you'd take a fishing boat out in those conditions. But that being said, we're talking about a fully loaded boat here, folks. The more weight you add to the bow is a significant disadvantage. Like I said, I've got about an extra 30 pounds on the bow of this boat versus stock. So think like 40 to 70 pounds. That's a big difference. So like try to pick up a 2x4 with 30 pounds on the end of it. Now make it 18 feet long. It's going to be extremely hard for you to pick that up, and that's what you're talking about with the mechanical advantage of the boat. As you trim it up, you need to be able to pick that bow up, and any weight that you can shift to the stern, you will be better off. You get more bow lift, you get more of the boat out of the water, which is a huge deal. That's where you're getting your speed from. Now you may see people say, oh, I put lithiums in my boat, so I need to add weight to the stern. Yeah, you can do that. You'd be way better off redistributing weight and not adding weight. Think of a race car, right? If a race car is not balanced, they're not just going to add weight to that corner that's light. They're going to redistribute the weight in the car. There's no reason for it to be heavier. A boat is no different. Try to keep it as light as possible and distribute the weight towards the stern. Speaking of weight distribution, this boat has a 6-inch jack plate on it. What does that do for you? 2 things. One, it lets you adjust the motor height without having to unbolt it and deal with all that. I can adjust it, not on the fly, but I can adjust it even on the water. I can do that. It also offers you additional weight distribution of the motor. So the motor is now 6 inches offset. That's going to make the rear of the boat sit a little bit lower in the water and help promote the front of the bow of the boat coming out of the water. That's also going to give you a little bit cleaner water getting to your lower unit or your propeller. So as that water comes off the hull, it's going to go back to where it wants to be and ideally get cleaner water to the prop. So I do run a 6-inch jack plate on this boat. I do have a reinforced transom because it's a tracker and that is the thing. So I have beefed it up a little bit to make sure that we're good there, but I do have a beefed up jack plate and I do like having it because I have played with it a lot and it does affect what the boat does quite substantially. So I did start off with a 4-inch jack plate. You may have seen a video on that. There's reasons why I don't run it. I actually cracked it because it was a cheap jack plate. I've got a video I'll put up here of cheap versus more expensive jack plates. If you're interested in that, it did work fine. I gained about 1 mile an hour with that. The handling is quite a bit better with the jack plate. So you're getting that weight distribution, you're getting that cleaner water, and you're just overall the dynamics of the boat is better. These trackers handle very poorly. And you probably notice that, especially if you're running a 3-blade prop. As soon as you start to turn it much speed, you're going to get some cavitation, some blowout. I would say this boat sticks much better than it did when it was stock or even with the 3-blade. Now that I run the 4-blade prop that I have now in the jack plate. So that's weight distribution and the jack plate. Let's go ahead and start talking about propellers. So I have ran a lot of props on this boat, and I've never tried to tune a boat before, so there's some learning there that I want to talk you through. First thing is 3-blade versus a 4-blade. The boat came with a 21 pitch 3-blade PowerTech propeller, and it ran pretty good. The handling was really terrible with it, not much cornering with it, and that was just kind of my starting point. I then moved to some aluminum 4-blade props, and the thought was, before I go drop several $100s on a stainless aluminum prop or stainless 4-blade prop, let's try the same pitch in the aluminum version and see if I can get some benefit to it. My results were all over the place. I've tried Quicksilver Nemesis 21 pitch 4-blade, which is essentially the Spitfire. I've tried the Spitfire 19 pitch aluminum 4-blade. I've tried a Turning Point aluminum 4-blade, and the performance was all not great. Top end was okay, but you could just tell that thicker blade on the aluminum, the boat just didn't do well with it. And I would say there's a enormous difference between what you can do with an aluminum prop versus a stainless prop, and your money is best spent on a stainless. Don't even bother with an aluminum prop. It's a waste of money. Now, if it's sacrificial and you feel like you might run into rocks and you need something that's going to be chewed up and thrown away, aluminum props, they have a place. They definitely have a place. If you want to get the maximum performance out of your boat, you will want to buy a stainless propeller. Let's talk about 3 versus 4-blade. The 3 props that we're really going to talk about are all 4-bladed props. That's for a couple of reasons. One is I started with a 3-blade, and the handling's terrible. Handling is important to me, and so is hole shot's okay, but more so the handling of the boat. If I got to run Lake Fork or something that's on boat lanes, or I'm trying to navigate a boat lane at Lake Ray Roberts or whatever's near I want to be able to hold a line as good as I can, and also if it's choppy, it helps with getting the bow up out of the water. You're able to run lower planing speeds, so if you're running slower through big water, the 4-blade will help keep you on top of that water. The hole shot is good. You also typically get good stern lift. These boats don't have a pad. Like if you look at the bottom of a bass boat, there's a small area of the boat that you're running on pad. These are very flat. They're a modified V-boat, and there's a lot of the boat in the water, so the more stern lift you can get and the weight off the bow, the more boat will come out of the water. And that comes into play when I got the right prop on it. I got it. Figured that out. So let's start to talk through that a little bit. So hopefully I've convinced you. We're talking about stainless props now, and we're talking about 4-bladed props now. We've moved on from aluminum, we've moved on from 3-blades. So there's 3 props that we're going to talk about. This is a Turning Point Express Mach 4, I think it is. It's a 13 by 19 pitch prop. We have this one here. Let's see if I can do this without dinging them up. This is a Quicksilver Q4, a Quicksilver Q4 21 pitch. This is the exact same prop as the Mercury SpitFire 21 pitch. These are the same. You have the Mercury is the OEM brand. The aftermarket brand of Mercury is Quicksilver. Same parts. In fact, there's a cross-reference sheet for them. We also have what's on here now, which is a 19 pitch Spitfire that I'm messing with as well. So those are the 3 props we're talking about. The Turning Point, you can see the advantage is $350. You can see why I own one versus some of these other props. It definitely has a unique design to it. The Quicksilver Q4 and the Spitfire X7 come in at about $600 a piece, so almost double of what the Turning Point prop is. Okay, we'll see how that shapes up. Now we're going to look at 4 different attributes of just my subjective thoughts on how the props perform. That's going to be hole shot, mid-range punch, so that's the, you get out of power to clear a wake and you get back in it. We got handling and top speed. And I kind of weighted them because they're not all the same importance to me. Hole shot's about 20%, and I'd say about 25% of my decision is built on mid-range, handling, and top speed. I want a balanced boat that does a lot of things. I don't want one that just, it takes 3 miles to get to the top speed and you get that extra 2 miles an hour with a horrible hole shot. I want a very well-balanced boat, right? We want to be able to do a lot of things with it as much as possible. So let's start with the Turning Point. So the Turning Point, like I said, is a $350 prop. It is a 4-blade stainless, and the hole shot is great. Fantastic hole shot, no problems with it. It's a 19 pitch. It gets up and goes. So I gave it a green for that. The mid-range punch is pretty good. I think overall, just to set up the boat, I don't know that you can get a green mid-range prop. Just not enough power. I think I need a little bit more torque at lower revs to be able to put power through it, and you lose too much if you went down to like a 17 pitch. So we're going to say green yellow is probably about the best you can get from mid-range on this, and it does pretty well there. From there, it starts to fall off. For me, I've ran this prop on and off a couple times. This is my sacrificial Lake Fork prop. If I had to hit something with a prop, I prefer it to be this prop, and that should tell you kind of what's coming up next. Handling wise, it does good until it doesn't. And what I mean is it does lose grip and it will cavitate on you. So there's times where you start to make a corner and it blows out, more so than the other props. So that one does not score well in that. That's why we gave it a yellow for handling. Now the top end is a red yellow. I've hit 48 miles an hour with this prop. I cannot hold 48 miles an hour with this prop. There's many times where, especially depending on the conditions of the water, that if you trim it up a little bit too much, you'll trim, and then it'll blow out and you'll lose. You'll lose speed. You'll gain 300 RPM, you'll drop 2 to 3 miles an hour, you have to trim back down, regain that grip, and then bring it back up again, and you'll go through this cycle a few times on a long run, and it drives me bananas. That's my biggest problem with the top end in the handling of this prop, is it just doesn't hold as well. Holds better-ish than the 3-blade, but for a 4-bladed prop, there are better options out there. So overall, we're gonna give the Turning Point prop like a yellow on our scoring scale. So subjectively, there should be something better. Let's go ahead and jump to our next propeller. That's gonna be the Quicksilver Q4. I'm getting a workout lifting these stainless props over. Quicksilver Q4. This is, again, like I said, the same as the Mercury SpitFire 21 pitch prop. This is a 12.7 by 21. I've ran this one the most, and so I've got the most experience with it, and it's a pretty darn good prop. I need a little bit more power for it. The hole shot suffers a bit. I call it a yellow because there's a lot better options out there for hole shot. You just need a little bit more power to get up and go. And that also will affect the mid-range punch. When I have to slow down for a stinking wake boat or whatever, to get back up on it, I gotta slow down, I gotta trim down, I gotta trim back up. I just don't have that power on tap that I expect, that I need out of the 21 pitch prop. Overall handling of the prop, I gave it a green. It's fantastic. Prop grips well. It's really hard to get it to blow out. Handling wise, it's really good. Because you get the design of the Mercury engineers, right, designing their prop. It is a good handling prop. The top end is also really good. Typically 47, 48 miles an hour. It takes a little bit of more time to get there because you're running a 21 pitch, and I'm running a little bit low on my revs. Now, overall, 5,500 RPM at 48. If you add someone to the boat, you're going to get 46, 45. So it is going to be a bit slower. And again, you want to get up in the revs, right? This motor will tack up to 6,200, I think, off the top of my head. And so the higher you want to get up in that RPM range, the more power you're going to have on tap. That'll help the mid-range, things like that. So overall, what I've learned for my boat and my weight and my setup, 21 pitch prop is too much. Great prop. If I had a light setup, I could probably take more advantage of it. But overall, 21 pitch for a loaded boat is too much for me. Let's go on to the next one. I'm not going to take it off, but it's right there. It is the Mercury SpitFire 19 pitch X7 stainless prop. It's fantastic. It is so good. After I've messed with what isn't as good, and then I put this prop on, and I've played with the motor height a little bit. The jack plate is actually all the way up at the moment, and I'm probably going to lift it, the whole motor up one set of holes, and play with it again because it does that much better. Overall, I would say the hole shot is a green. It's fantastic. The mid-range punch, like I said, it's going to be hard to get a full green on this. It's good. There's been times where I'm like, oh, I wish I had more, but that's just anybody who modifies something wants more power, right? So it's great on the mid-range. Handling is fantastic, just like the Q4 prop. And then also the top end speed. I've hit 50.5 miles an hour GPS speed. That's by myself on a light chop. That is the highest I've ever gotten. I think there's a little bit more in it. If I were to raise the motor up, redistribute the weight a little bit. If I took out some weight, yeah, it'd obviously get a lot faster too. but 50-mile-an-hour boat with the setup, with someone with me, depending on the chop. This boat likes chop, and you've probably noticed that in your tracker. Those slip calm days, your boat actually slows down a little bit. It needs a little bit of chop to break that surface and get a little bit more boat out of the water. That said, it's a solid 48 to 50-mile-an-hour boat with the 19-pitch prop. It's got good main range, it's got good handling, it's got good hole shot. 100% love this prop. I don't really want to change anything with it. I want to leave it just the way it is. It gets good stern lift. It feels like it comes up more out of the water. It's more responsive. It is a great prop. That is the same as the Q4. If you find the Quicksilver Q4 19-pitch, same prop, you find a good deal on it, go for it. Hopefully that helps. I mean, kind of what I wanted to talk to you about is some weight distribution, talk about jack plate, talk about what I've gone through with the different styles of props, and overall give you a recommendation. I'll have links to the jack plate and the prop wrench and all that stuff that I've been using to tweak with it. That being said, I hope you found some value in this one. Spent a lot of time messing with this boat. Like and subscribe to the channel. We'll see you on the next one.